Greetings, I'm Maggie Moon. Thank you so very much for joining me today for this very special video. I am going to be conducting a VR interview with a person that I admire greatly. I love his straightforward attitude. He tells it like it is. And when he speaks, you know that he's not messing around. He is the real deal, and when he speaks from a place of truth. So join me in welcoming Thomas LeRoy. Hi Thomas, thank you so very much for joining me today.
Hi Maggie, how are you?
Can you tell the viewer a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do?
Well, to begin with, I am the founder of the international left-hand path organization called the Sect of the Horn God. Now, the Sect of the Horn God is a bit different than, let's say, a standard Satanic organization or Luciferian or whatever. Our philosophy is basically that of the, how should I say, the sinistrist philosophy, which is left-hand path. But it's eclectic left-hand path. As I like to say, it is the mixed martial arts of the left-hand path. Now, the reason why I use the name Horn God instead of Satan is I try to go deeper than, well, I don't like to just stay on the surface. I like to dive deep, if you will. And what I'm getting at is the deeper archetypal aspects of the path, not only in the subconscious or the unconscious mind, but also deeper into history, if you will, to try to find the root of it all. Who was that first, let's say, I don't know, shamanic deviant who, instead of bowing down to that image of a horn god etched on a wall, decided, you know what? I am that son of a bitch. I am that horn god. I'm not subservient to it. Also, what we're doing with the sect is trying to make people aware of their black flame, if you will. Some of those who maybe have never heard of the left-hand path, they may have heard of Satanism and so on and so forth, but weren't familiar with the path. Hopefully what I'm doing with my videos and with the organization is to wake individuals up to that aspect of themselves that they might be ignoring.
What drew you to the left-hand path initially?
Now, what drew me to the left-hand path? Well, I would say it was reading the Satanic Bible. Now, at an early age, I started studying the occult. I put Christianity by the wayside, if you will, and started picking up books by different occult authors and so on and so forth. But the vast majority of it that I was reading, it didn't appeal to me. It wasn't, how should I say, it wasn't dark enough. The idea of dancing around with a bunch of hippies in a communal circle, naked around a bonfire, just, unless it was with a bunch of attractive women and turned into an orgy, that idea did not appeal to me whatsoever. And also, I started thinking on a somewhat rational level that was I simply substituting one belief system, one faith, one religion for another, having left the Christian church. So eventually, in my later teens, I picked up the Satanic Bible and it just clicked with me. That's what made me aware of the path. And since then, I began studying other aspects of the path besides simply Satanism. You know, everything from Satanism to Luciferianism, all the way to Hindu left-hand path practices.
What does being a Satanist mean to you?
Now, what being a Satanist means to me is, using LeRoy's description, I see it as a characteristic, if you will. Sort of like an introvert or an extrovert. It is, you're born a Satanist. And I think the vast majority of people who are born Satanists never realize that they're Satanists. It is a characteristic that is defined by a comfort within the darker realms, if you will, of art, music, reality. It's also a basic attitude, a very one of independence. You have no longing to be a part of the herd. As I like to say, you would rather devour the herd than join it.
In your view, what are some differences between Luciferians and Satanists?
Now, the differences, Luciferianism, from what I know, it's less carnal, if that makes any sense. It delves into something a little deeper, into the psyche, into the soul, if you will. More spiritual, for lack of a better term. Where one can be a strict, hardcore atheist and be a Satanist, a hardcore atheistic Luciferian doesn't exactly work, if that makes any sense.
That is a really great answer. Thank you. Do you perceive the deities as being a part of our psyche, within us, or without us, or both?
The initial argument, whether gods exist or they don't exist, let's say the atheistic theist debate or whatever, to me is I can't stand that debate. I find it too simplistic, because both the hardcore atheist and the theist are arguing from the exact same point of view, a literalist interpretation of what the gods are. The gods are so much deeper than, well, the idea of the gods goes so much deeper than simply, do they exist or don't they exist? Yes, both are true. They exist and then they don't exist. Mythology, for example, is very much a part of reality, is very real. Mythology, though, is something you experience. Now, this perspective isn't straddling the fence, let's say. It isn't agnostic. The gods are alive. Now, they are what I like to call the avatars, the archetypes, the Jungian archetypes that dwell within the collective unconscious. And these archetypes send out these gods and monsters, angels and demons, and they are manifested within the psyche. So in that respect, they are part of the mind. But then again, they are very much a part of consciousness. Because basically everything's a part of consciousness. Because without consciousness, let's face it, nothing exists. So, yes, they are real. And yes, they are manifestations of the psyche.
Why does some of the satanic rituals that you hear about involve saying Christian prayers backwards or burning Bible pages?
Okay, the Black Mass. deities and all that. Yeah. I consider that the freak show aspect of Satanism, if you will. It's kind of what people expect. You know, it's okay, that came about by you can call it anti-witch propaganda from like the 16th century. You know, they read the Lord's Prayer backwards, and they killed babies and rendered their fat so they can rub it on themselves and go, fly away into the full moon, whatever. Pure bullshit. And people who I can kind of see, let's say, people first getting into Satanism, because that's what they think it's all about, but you gotta get over this kind of silliness. You really do, if you want to get anywhere.
Thank you so very much for clarifying that for the listener, because a lot of that nonsense is spread out. People just accept that as being true, and it is nothing about the path at all. Do you have any advice for the beginner who is just starting out upon their satanic path, where they would do best to begin, and perhaps some pitfalls that they may wish to avoid?
Any advice for the beginner on a path like this? It's not about belief. It's not about faith. It's about education. It's about knowledge. It's about learning. It's about picking up the books and watching the videos and studying and meditating. And basically, at its core, it's getting to know yourself. Getting to know who you are. That is important. That is tremendously important. Because a lot of people who get on this path may suddenly realize it isn't them. It doesn't work for them. It doesn't work for them because people don't want to face their shadow. Because that's what you're doing on the left-hand path. You are getting to know the very darkest aspects of who you are. And that scares the shit out of a lot of people. So, my advice, make sure, all right, if you're a beginner, make sure you got the guts to do this. Because it can literally make you fucking nuts, all right? You're not fucking around. This isn't a game. All right. It's not like I just mentioned earlier about the whole black mass and all that bullshit, that backward crap. That's a game. The true path is not a game. So be prepared for truths that will surface. Truths as to who you are. And facing that reality, you might not find very appealing. So, I hope that answers that question.
Thank you so very much, Thomas. You are greatly appreciated.
And thanks for inviting me to be on your channel. I appreciate it.
I will leave a link in the description below to his YouTube channel, and as well to the Sect of the Horned God. Until next time, I wish you dark and wild